Hi my friends, it's Saturday and I haven't been able to record my podcast because unfortunately this week has been a bit of a blur, lots of things to do, and I had to get through a very urgent list, and honestly I had very little energy this week. I think hormonally I am actually in luteal phase, even if my period, I don't know if it will come, but definitely I have the symptoms, and one of the things is like totally brain scattered and feeling very like, not present. Today is the first day I actually feel almost normal. So the things that I wanted to record though, I think I'm gonna just make a video here and post it on YouTube, where I would love for you to actually follow me and like the videos, because that's how we get traction and we grow. And I have a new show with Brenda Davis, which we're recording. We release one episode a month for the time being. Later we will reevaluate if it can be more. And because she's writing a book and she's traveling so much, she's doing lectures so many places, so it's just too much for her, and I don't want to put a burden on her because she's so sweet and kind to be on the project with me. And then obviously the whole point of the Wellness Woman is to do every week, and sometimes I'm slacking, I've noticed, so I'm trying to get back to it, but this will basically be a replacement for that episode that I didn't do yesterday. If I get a chance to do another one tomorrow, I will. So this week I'm going to talk about why we stay, and it's at the back of a conversation that I had with my friend Sky Conway, whom by the way I have a podcast on Sunday night with. It's live on YouTube and Instagram. We posted at 9 p.m. GMT, 10 p.m. Central, Central, so that'd be Paris, and then it's just about, not just about, we talk about hormonal health on a raw diet or high raw, but we talk about hormonal health, and obviously from her experience going through early menopause, surgically induced, and her, healing her body continuously and the changes. But tomorrow we're going to talk about protein, so stay tuned for that one. It's really, really good. I'll be sharing the link tomorrow. In the meantime, the conversation I had with Sky was about my relationship with my ex-husband and how I came out of this space and this relationship with a lot of aha moments about me, about our relationship, a lot about him and the work that he should do really psychologically and emotionally, which unfortunately he's not doing. Is spiritual bypassing and smoking cannabis to feel better as medicine, as he says, instead of really facing the hard stuff. And I have come to obviously the place where I was tired of saying the same things. I was tired of not seeing improvement. I was tired of getting gaslit, but I didn't understand a lot of the scope of so many things when I was in it. And as I work with women, the question always comes up is like, why do we stay? Because when a woman comes to me and shares open-heartedly about how they actually feeling, and how although they might even be with like the greatest guy on earth, and sometimes that person is sweet and supportive in many ways, but just doesn't meet their needs in any shape or form in the relationship, why do we stay? And when I speak to older women, generally it's like, I decided to stay, not to start over. And these are women that also went into menopause without the support of anybody. And so I know that a lot of people, when they go into menopause and they don't have the support, they don't have even the option to perhaps even choose HRT if they want it. They don't have the option of checking what's happening with their levels of hormones, what's happening with their health, which can be going through a lot of stuff. They kind of don't want to add another thing to their life, which is changing partner or being alone and then not being able to really open up to somebody else. And I understand that fully. So you see the generational shifts, and then you see the people that have been given the knowledge and the support, and they have the courage to leave. Or if you're younger, you might not know what comes next, but the suffering in a relationship is so much harder than leaving the relationship. And that was the case for me. The pain in my relationship that I was feeling was so much bigger than me being afraid of being alone. And I'm not someone that's actually afraid of being alone per se, but of course the unknown is very, very unsettling for anybody. And as much as I'm courageous and brave in many ways, I still, had the feeling like, oh my God, what is the sleep gonna be? And maybe why, in many ways, Kyle and I are still tangled in a lot of aspects, but I had to make a decision lately that I have actually come to the end of the road about a lot of things that are still keeping us connected, because the truth is, I think he's got so much emotional work that he has to do that he actually can't even offer friendship in the way that I would want a friendship, or to anybody would want a friendship. I think if you want a friendship that is transparent and open and honest and supportive and really kind, that is missing. And I don't think you're gonna find it just because somebody prays and says that they're a good person. And unfortunately, again, spiritual bypassing, it doesn't make people heal. But everybody has to do their own thing. But what does make us stay? Well, I hadn't been happy in my relationship for a while. In fact, I shared it before, but in 2016, Kyle actually, I was ready to leave him. I was at that point where I just thought we want very fundamentally different things. And he was behaving in an appalling way in many ways. Years later, the truth is, his behavior is not so much about the action. Like, he has channeled a lot of his selfishness in different things that would hurt me. But just because now he's not cheating, or not now, when we were together, he wasn't cheating anymore. It was always about him. It was never about me and how I felt, quite honestly, and it's still the case now. So he accuses me of horrible things, he calls me name, and I thankfully don't take it personal, because I know everything he says is not truth. But it's still disappointing having these moments where you're trying to have a conversation that has to be hard because it's emotional stuff, and you're met with this not only resistance but like total opposition and pushbacks. So the work here is mostly about why did I stay so long if I wasn't happy? Well, in 2016, when I found out that he was actually having an affair with someone, he really seemed honest about apologizing, and I believed him, and I actually honestly forgave him 100%. I never did one thing think, oh, you cheated. Like, that is not even an afterthought anymore. Like, it happened, many reasons, but I forgave him. I decided to forgive him, so I thought I forgive him. But it comes with him wanting the forgiveness, because I feel bad, so I don't care how you felt. I feel bad, so forgiveness is granted and deserved, and then, fuck you, basically. But I didn't see it that way at the time. So going into 2017, things happened very fast, and when we got married, it was mostly because he left JP Morgan, which was a big burden on him emotionally and also in every way. Like, he was working 16 hours a day. Like, he was tired, and I honestly thought that changing the environment would help him become a better partner. Then we started having conversation, and seemingly we wanted similar things. But again, it wasn't about me ever. It wasn't about us as a couple. It was about him as a person, because Kyle is an only child with a lot of emotional trauma from his mom, and he would that's his life. Like, it's it would only he puts himself in the center of it. Like, it's like emotionally never really evolved from being a child, an only child, because he was surviving, and he needed to survive in many ways, in his environment, in his circumstances. So of course I understand and appreciate where that comes from, but it's not a justification either. So, but I'm someone that always looks at the bright side for the most part. So until that point, I really did. When we moved here, when we started this project here in Portugal, it was all on my shoulders. He was financially backing it more than me, because I didn't have as much money as he did. But but I did everything. I did all the traveling up and down. The vision was mine, the designs, everything. And somehow, a lot of of the things that I'd done before we got married, before the project, before everything, it just dissipated in the ether as if I had never done anything and only took from him. This is what I get blamed of. And it's as if I didn't actually construct this house that he loves living in. And so, it's been a very challenging emotional thing, but at the same time, it was also like this, when we moved here with all the stress, he just never appreciated what I was going through. So of course it was always going back to him being not, I wasn't doing things right by him, making him feel in a certain way. It was all about him, it was never about me. To the point that even when I got sick, I got told that I wasn't, like, I'm just making it up. And even after, when I'm like, look, I was really sick, you always bring that up as an excuse. And I'm just like, it wasn't an excuse, it was a reason. It's very different, because I had moved past it. I'm very proud of healing without any medication. I'm very proud of doing all the work. I'm very proud of myself for many things. So no, it wasn't an excuse, but it was a reality, a fact. And the very fact that now I still get with the gaslighting, if I mention, look, that was happening, I didn't have, I couldn't be tolerant of many things because I just didn't have it in me to be tolerant. I was exhausted, and the reactions from exhaustion were that's just the fact. Of course I regret not being a better version of myself, but I also didn't appreciate how sick I was, and he never ever once actually appreciated that, and he still doesn't. But so when you are in a certain space, you are getting a lot of gaslighting, the survival mode, and this is something actually that Dr. LaPera talks about in her book, by the way, Reparenting the Inner Child, because it's true. And I never clicked until I listened. I read and listened to the chapter. To survive, we dissociate, and that's exactly what I've done. And I remember feeling like I was looking at myself from the outside, that I didn't know in which body I was, not only because I didn't look like myself, but I didn't feel like myself. I completely dissociated, and that was a survival mode. It was a survival mode also because things escalated in the household and the relationship and the dynamics when it became a cult. We were living like we were in a cultish environment where this Hebrew Israelite movement took over, and we were there judging the whole world for being better people than others. In this case, however, it was like I by association was okay because I was married to him, who's black, Hebrew Israelite. And the moment I left him, I lost those privileges, right? So it is an insane thing, but it really is that. And only when you step out of a circumstance, you actually realize, my God, I was doing all the work emotionally for both of us, physically for both of us, in every single way, surviving. And nobody could know this if they hadn't been in the inside. And even the people that were in the inside, like my brother and my sister, because they were dealing with their own trauma from the circumstances and everything we were going through, they didn't appreciate what I was going through, neither did I with them, because we were all in our little bubbles surviving. And so when you're in survival mode, you're not going to make any choices that are beneficial for you, because you're trying to dissociate from the very thing that brings you pain and transform it into something that just is a circumstance you have to live and navigate, and that takes away joy. So I remember one of the things that when I started getting better and healthier, and I really credit raw food, because the more raw I went, the more I felt things viscerally, to the point where I was just like, I'm not okay with this. And that's when the pain of staying in a painful relationship was bigger than the pain of leaving. And so, to me, that was the aha moment. But only when I stepped out of that, only when I had the courage to move out from that circumstance, and I did it slowly in a way, like, because circumstances also helped, like I was working in Braga now, I had my office, I couldn't go home every day. The distance created clarity, where I was happier not to be around my ex-husband, because every time we would try and talk about anything, it would be a fighting match where I get lighting, and where I get pushback, and where I get told off, and where I get screamed at. because he goes from 0 to 100 and he still doesn't now, so it's impossible to speak to him, to the point that I'm actually so unnerved by speaking to him that I utilize a lawyer to share information, because I just cannot sit with him. When we had a therapist for a while, which we only went to because he thought that I should go and see her because I was mentally ill for leaving him, I used her really as a mediator to say what we had to say, and the horrible things that he even said in the sessions, and so many lies also, by the way, about a lot of stuff. But anyway, the point is that since then, the growth has been enormous, because I practice compassion through the fact that I think he's been damaged in so many ways, and that's why he's just stuck. But I also have my boundaries very well firm and no more tolerance, and so I've come to the, like, okay, now it's time to actually disconnect fully and do it properly, because it's just not conducive to anybody's health. And of course it will spin it in a way that I am wrong, and so he's better off without me. He's walking away, he's making the choice. If it makes him feel better, that's okay for me, but the point is, yeah, sure, you're now choosing, bring us down to vibration, not knowing that he actually brings the vibration down because he's judgmental and actually mean-spirited in many ways, and it's sad to see someone that sits on a high horse judging everybody being the very thing that he judges others for. And that's what spiritual bypassing does to you, but that's what you find in cults and what cult leaders do. They will not be able to see, because he himself is dissociated from the reality, because it's too painful to be in that reality. So this is why I find so many women finding it hard to leave their relationships, their marriage, whatever it is, even jobs where they are actually emotionally feeling attacked, but to survive they dissociate from their feeling. So this is what I call, in a way, I know that Stockholm Syndrome is more about finding compassion for your abuser to the point where you justify it, but in a way actually this is expanded to the fact that we only can do that when we dissociate it from our own pain. And so to survive pain, we create the green garden we're sitting in instead of the bush with thorns, right? So how do we make choices? Well, the first thing first is self-care. When you're stressed, overwhelmed, overburdened, feeling like everything is just too much, you're not going to be able to make choices. You're not going to be able to take steps, and you're not going to be able to do anything but staying dissociated. So self-care comes with sleeping, nourishing yourself. And that also includes, for a lot of us, not eating emotionally, which is something that we actually do to survive sometimes. We all have escapes. Like, it can be alcohol, it can be cakes, it can be drugs, anything that makes us not connect to how we feel. That's the escapism. And food is very much a low-hanging fruit, because there is pleasure in food. And I found that cooked food especially, and sweet food of course, has that extra part to it where we just feel so good when we have it. We just feel so nourished and taken care of. I say when I have an emotional moment and I navigate towards dates, it's because it physically feels like having a hug. It feels like that sugar income, and of course it comes with fiber and good nutrients. I wouldn't go to some junk, but a lot of it's still not good for your body. It's overwhelming, and my body can take it because I'm healthy in general. But it's funny how we navigate these moments, these realities, and the food, because we have that emotional attachment to it. It feels like a hug when you're eating something sweet, like dates, dry fruit more than fresh fruit obviously, but it's interesting. So starting to eat consciously, asking yourself, is this what my body needs? Why? Versus my spirit. What does my spirit need as food? So that's actually a powerful thing to ask yourself. And then the exercising and moving, being in nature, go for walks. You don't have to go to the gym, but just go for walks, move on the mat, even 10 minutes. Have beautiful calming tisanes. Just have or herbal teas. Have infusions. Have that moment where you can take care of you. And that makes an impactful shift. And then you start seeing things clearly, because you now, when you're not in parasympathetic and you are more in, you're calmer, you are actually able to starting to see things in a way that makes sense. You're not dissociating, you're not disconnecting, and you're trying to be a lot more grounded in the choices that you're going to make. That also means if you have to go, you might strategize better how to do it. And there are obviously the logistical part we're not talking about here, because everybody has different circumstances, but like financial, children, like there are so many things in the specs of things. But it's important to think about these things, and then but you can strategize. But ultimately, I can guarantee this: no matter your starting point, the decision and the early steps are the hardest, and then things become better and easier. And when I say easier, I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. Easier, to the extent that the steps are going to feel lighter when you move towards that part of your life where you made the decision. So I truly would love for you to nurture this inner sense of freedom that you can find, because ultimately you're going to be having, when I say less weight off your shoulders, I mean tons of weight off your shoulders, tons, because now you're able to step away from that very thing that was making you miserable to begin with. And God knows it was powerful for me, and I know it's powerful for a lot of women. If you choose to stay, your reason to stay needs to be able to really justify any pain you're in, and the pain cannot be greater than the pain of leaving. If the pain of leaving is greater than staying, in the sense that you can tolerate and there are things that you can live with or without, that's a different thing. But compromising your happiness to stay because of fear, that's something to look at. And I urge you to look for support, a psychologist, a therapist, a coach, someone to support you in the steps that you want to take, because a sounding board in these circumstances, whichever way you decide to go, is incredibly important. So I wanted to share this on today's podcast, or makeshift podcast, because I feel that it was really, really burning inside of me viscerally that I should share this, because I've seen it. I've spoken to so many of my clients. My client base has grown. I wanted to go more public speaking, but I'm having one-to-ones a lot more because, well, word of mouth, which is amazing. And in a way, I guess this is right now is where I need to help, because I figure that if I help these women feel empowered and beautiful and strong, they will be thriving so much more. And when they do, they can make other people's life incredible. So I'm seeing this as the ripple effect. So I'm not ready to leave that, I guess. I am here for a reason and for a purpose. Just like people in my life are here for a reason and for a purpose. So I wanted to share this. It's very empowering, and I hope that this might nudge you in some ways. I know that it doesn't have the blueprint. There is not a single blueprint, but it has some steps that you can start taking. So start with that, and then you will figure it out, and you can seek out help that will help you figure out even more. So guys, I love you, and please subscribe, like the channel on YouTube,